People were telling me, hey, you can't go play Patrick Bateman, it's career suicide.
I'm Batman.
And I was like, bring it on. I definitely want to do that.
And the Oscar goes to Christian Bale, the fighter.
Bloody hell, what a room full of talented and inspirational people, and what the hell am I doing here?
Christian Charles Philip Bale.
I think you've already said it.
Many call him Sigma Bale. For some, he's a godly actor. For others, he's a beacon of dedication. And for very few, he's a symbol of toxic masculinity.
I'm in touch with humanity.
But why? Some say it's because of his iconic roles as Bruce Wayne, Dick Cheney, and Patrick Bateman. Others say it's because society has gone mad. But even if that were true, there is more to the story than that. So let's go back. Faster, faster. Stop. Right there. 1974. Christian Bale was born in Pembrokeshire, Wales, and Bale had a very early start to his career. His family was always moving from country to country, since his dad was a pilot and his mom was a circus performer. Through their numerous travels, young Bale had seen a lot of the world. And so when his sister got cast in a West End musical, Christian Bale decided that he would become an actor professionally. Up until that moment, he had just appeared in a fabric softener commercial when he was 8 years old. Following his decision to start acting, he took part in a play called The Nerd that would serve as the foundation for his future career. He performed opposite the legendary Rowan Atkinson before he was Mr. Bean. On set, he took notice of how Rowan embodied the character he was playing. Outside of scenes, Rowan never talked to anyone on the set. He was thoroughly engulfed in his role at all times. It wasn't until after the play that Rowan introduced himself to Bale and other members of the cast. This mesmerized Bale and gave him a clear template to follow. Because you see, Christian Bale had never gotten any formal acting training. Everything he did, he learned from deeply observing those around him. You could say he was very lucky to have Rowan Atkinson as his muse. And through his newfound method acting style, Christian Bale would take what he learned and reach for the stars. 1986. Following his successful acquisition of a minor role in the television film Anastasia, The Mystery of Anna, Christian Bale received a significant opportunity. Amy Irving, the film's lead star and spouse of acclaimed director Steven Spielberg, went on to endorse Bale for a pivotal role in Spielberg's 1987 film Empire of the Sun. He scaled through the auditions and performed exceptionally well during the movie. This was a breakout role for him at just 13 years of age, and it netted him the inaugural Best Performance by a Juvenile Actor Award from the National Board of Review of Motion Pictures, as well as mainstream popularity. But all of this came at a cost. Young Bale loved acting. He loved being in the moment of acting, and he found it fun. What he didn't love, though, was all the attention that came with it. He dreaded the numerous interviews, unnecessary attention, and worst of all, he was getting bullied in school. In fact, it got so bad that he would sneak away during interviews to use the bathroom, then completely vanish the next moment. And who could blame him? He was still a child, with little understanding of the acting world, and so much pressure being mounted on him. It was the first roadblock in his acting career, and the entire experience caused him to take a break from acting, as he didn't want to deal with all the media attention ever again. Thankfully, the people around Bale had other plans. Christian Bale got dragged back into acting when Kenneth Branagh persuaded him to appear in his film Henry V. Despite his personal dread of the media, the young Bale felt a sense of obligation to continue acting due to financial reasons, and the fact that Kenneth had put effort into persuading him. Following his performances in Empire of the Sun and Henry V, Christian Bale went through a highly difficult time in his life. His parents went through a divorce, which ended with him moving to Los Angeles together with his dad and sister Louise. Los Angeles, even back then, was a good place to focus on his acting career and get his mind off his family issues. In Los Angeles, Christian Bale's career went through a bit of a lull, and it seemed like the hype had died down for Bale. He either starred in unsuccessful movies such as Newsies or played a minor supporting role in mid-tier movies like The Portrait of a Lady. Christian Bale was putting his all into the movies and they just weren't performing. That's not to say that all movies he performed in did terribly. I mean, he played a smashing role as Theodore Laurie Lawrence in Little Women and voiced Thomas in Pocahontas, which were both received well by audiences and critics alike.
They let him go. They don't want to fight. John!
Something that would set him apart. A good script with an interesting character for him to shine. Enter American Psycho. This was where he showcased his superior method acting. The way he embodied Patrick Bateman is something that still resonates with audiences to this day. It's crazy to think that Leonardo DiCaprio almost snatched the role from him again. Bale had previously lost huge roles to DiCaprio in movies including This Boy's Life, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and even The Titanic. You have to imagine Bale wasn't too happy with DiCaprio coming for his role yet again. When Bale first auditioned with director Mary Herron, she knew he was the perfect fit and refused to take anyone else but him. Both she and Bale were kicked off the production team because of it. The studio then brought in Leonardo DiCaprio with Oliver Stone as the new director. Thankfully, Leonardo ended up changing his mind about playing the role after receiving some advice from a journalist that led him to believe that it would affect his image and approval ratings with female audiences, which were of course the major part of his audience at the time, since playing in The Titanic. That journalist was Gloria Steinem, and she was a feminist who later got married to Bale's father that same year. Some people speculated that she was actually looking out for her future stepson, but no one really knows for sure. Regardless, it was great news for Christian Bale, who was rejecting other movie offers and still actively preparing for the role despite being kicked off the team earlier. When the time for production came, the crew immediately knew that they were dealing with a serious method actor. With his foundations with Rowan Atkinson, Christian Bale encapsulated the role of Patrick Bateman perfectly, even when the cameras weren't rolling. He had actually practiced Patrick Bateman's routine from the movie every day in real life and was dead set on playing him to perfection. Of course, with the exemption of murder. Fellow cast members even stated that it got to a point where he was able to sweat on command in the business card scene from the movie. He would sweat on command no matter how many takes they did, and at the perfect time too. This showed just how dedicated he was to the role, but also puts his sanity into question. Not to mention his improv scenes, which have now become iconic moments from the movie. When the movie was released back in 2000, it certainly wasn't as popular as it is now. American Psycho was given mixed reviews, with some saying it was a pointless movie and others saying it was a perfect blend of humor and horror. But one thing everyone could agree on was that Christian Bale played the role too perfectly. Film critic Roger Ebert regarded Christian Bale's work as being heroic in the way he allows the character to leap joyfully into despicability. There is no instinct for self-preservation here, and that is one mark of a good actor. Nowadays, the film is revered by many as a great depiction of the current state of society, where everyone is trying to look the same, say the same things, and think the same thoughts. A lot of people view Patrick Bateman as someone who tried to step out of that mundane cycle in his own sick and twisted way. The reason why people call him a Sigma is because he's a reflection of a side of them they don't have the courage to let out. Obviously, leaving out the occasional mass murder is ideal. The year American Psycho aired was a great stepping stone in Bale's career and truly showcased his talents to the world. It was also the year where he tied the knot with his wife, who he met on the set of Little Women back in 1994. Before he met her, Christian Bale was very skeptical about marriage, as his parents' marriage didn't really set a great example for him. He and his wife would go on to have 2 wonderful kids together and are still together over 20 years later. The year 2000 was his greatest display of method acting until, after his role in American Psycho, Christian Bale played some roles he wasn't particularly happy with. He wanted to challenge himself to portray a difficult character in Trevor Resnick who was literally being eaten up by guilt. So he didn't eat. Seriously, he didn't eat. His diet in preparation for the movie consisted of an apple, a can of tuna, black coffee, and a whole lot of cigarettes and whiskey each day. Because of this extreme diet, Christian Bale lost 63 pounds and was practically a walking skeleton during filming. He had taken method acting to a whole new level for a film that didn't even pay very well. It performed dreadfully at the box office, but did receive praise from notable film critics, particularly praise for Christian's performance. In this movie, Christian Bale was more concerned about getting immersed in the role rather than the amount of money he was getting paid. He thoroughly captured the essence of Trevor's character in the movie, and it is still one of his greatest performances to date. But it's probably not what you remember him for. Upon being announced to star in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, his friends warned him to avoid the role as he would never be able to play anything else. The same thing had previously happened when he was about to play Patrick Bateman. They told him it was career suicide, and it wasn't worth never being able to play a good role again. Safe to say, he ignored them once again, affirming that he needed to be good enough to rise above that, and the role would provide him with financial resources to pay off his house. Especially since Christopher Nolan was so keen on having him perform the role, stating that Bale was the perfect balance between light and darkness, which he needed for Batman.
I'm Batman.
In preparation for the role, Christian Bale had to regain his lost weight and put on more muscle so he could truly look the part. He weighed 220 pounds at the time of filming and performed a lot of his own stunts. Christian once again immersed himself in a role, playing both Batman and Bruce Wayne excellently. During interviews, he would talk in the same manner and accent he spoken from the movie, and it came as a surprise to crew members and fans when they finally found out he was British. Although Christian Bale had Oscar-worthy performances in the entire trilogy, he was sadly upstaged by Heath Ledger, who put on an insane performance as the Joker. This was the first time Christian said he felt inferior in his career.
I don't even like this scene. Make it up, and I've got to be ready for that. And if I'm not ready for that, I feel very insecure arriving on the set.
With the success of the Batman movies, new life was given to Bale's career. New opportunities were being presented, but with it, of course, came some problems as well. On the set of Terminator Salvation in 2008, Christian Bale had an outburst towards a member of the crew. The audio of the incident was released the following year, and what ensued was chaos. In the clip, Bale was mouthing off the film's cinematographer Shane Hulbut for walking onto the set in an intense moment of filming. It got so bad that Bale threatened to leave if Shane wasn't fired.
You know, shut up for a second, all right? I'm gonna go. Do you want me to go trash your lights? You do it one more time, and I ain't walking on this set if you're still hired.
There was a huge outrage from the public, with some people holding the opinion that the years of method acting had finally broken his mental state. He got too into the role he was playing. Eventually, Christian apologized publicly and said he had made amends with Shane, saying that what he did was inexcusable. Shortly before that, on 22nd July 2008, Christian Bale found himself detained by authorities in London. This followed a report filed by his mother and sister Sharon alleging an assault at a hotel. Subsequently, Christian was released on bail. He flat out denied the accusations and referred to the incident as a deeply personal matter. Ultimately, on 14th August, the Crown Prosecution Service announced its decision not to pursue the case any further due to insufficient evidence that could reasonably lead to a conviction. One could say that his characters were beginning to affect his personal life, which he keeps very private. These situations greatly reduced his public perception and gave him a lot to think about in years to come. 2009, Terminator Salvation was finally released, and it was said to be one of Christian Bale's worst performances and a far cry from the rejuvenation Bale had hoped to bring to the franchise. After the movie's less than successful run, Bale realized that this was just a small hurdle in his career, and so he picked himself up, dusted off, and went for the next movie. 2011, Christian Bale won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor and the Golden Globe for the same category as well. These were awards that eluded him for years, and he won them doing what he was best at, method acting. Dickie Eklund was a character that couldn't be played by just anyone. There needed to be a sense of authenticity and comedy to the performance, and that's exactly what Christian Bale delivered. Prior to the role, he had lost 30 pounds so he could look as close to Dickie as possible. During filming, he was regularly hanging out with Dickie Eklund in order to play his role to perfection. They became close friends, and Bale thoroughly understood the mind of Dickie. All of that enabled him to perform exceptionally well in the role. But Christian Bale wasn't done. That same year, he would star in a historical drama film, The Flowers of War, which became the highest-grossing Chinese film of that year. Shortly after that, he would return to Batman to finish off the trilogy. The last installment of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises, grossed over $1 billion worldwide, surpassing its predecessor by a landslide. Bale's performance in the trilogy was regarded as the best portrayal of Batman on film, but Bale still felt he could have done better. After the Dark Knight trilogy, Bale stepped into the next phase of his career. He starred in films such as Out of the Furnace, The Big Short, and American Hustle. He was nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe Award for his work in American Hustle. In preparation for the movie, he gained 43 pounds, shaved part of his head, and adopted a bad posture, which reduced his height by 3 inches and caused him to suffer a herniated disc. It was just another day at the office for Bale, as he would put his mind and body through any form of torture in order to play a character to perfection. Happy to say that it paid off though, as he was also nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe Award for his work in The Big Short in 2016. In the movie, Bale portrayed Michael Burry, a socially awkward hedge fund manager set in the 2008 financial crisis. Bale once again met up with the real Michael Burry in order to understand his role better. It led him to deliver an outstanding performance that received critical acclaim. Christian Bale's career was almost complete, and after his role in Ford vs. Ferrari, where he had to lose 70 pounds and got another nomination for a Golden Globe Award, Christian Bale announced that he was no longer going to go through weight fluctuations for movies. It seemed like time had finally caught up with him, as the frequent weight fluctuations were beginning to cause him heart palpitations. Although that might seem like a sad story, it was not the end of his career. Christian Bale would go on to appear in multiple movies after that, most recently in Amsterdam and his role in Thor: Love and Thunder, where he played Gore the God Butcher. Throughout his entire career, Christian Bale held a unique acting philosophy. He never considered himself a method actor, but rather someone who is willing to completely immerse himself in a role. He always took challenges head-on, regardless of the opinion of others. For him, it was fun. For him, it was art.
And the critics' choice is Christian Bale, The Big Short!
That was just a lovely make-out session with my wife and with Adam and with Charles.
Oh my lord, your empire has already ended.